Well, hello everybody, welcome to me, your host, Christian Watson. My friends, democracy. I believe that this topic is becoming a recurring topic on my channel, and I don't know how to feel about that. Perhaps because it's a theme that is enduring in American politics. Perhaps because democracy may just simply be an addictive term in the modern contemporary American lexicon that is most oftentimes critically unevaluated, or uncritically unaccepted rather, by well-meaning people who have believed that term to mean something that it absolutely does not mean whatsoever. And you see the title of today's video. There is a particular political faction in this country, for the use of a heuristic, I will say the left, and I'll explain why in a second, that uses the word democracy almost ad nauseum to justify every single policy prescription they have, to justify every single position they have. Now, when I say as a heuristic, I want to make this point clear, because a lot of people make this point. When I say the left, I am simply using the closest thing I can use in the English language to describe a faction of people, while acknowledging in my analysis that the left is not a monolith. Obviously, there are different factions of folks on the left. You have your more progressive people. You have your more socialist people who may not necessarily think the progressives go far enough. You have your more center-left liberals who may simply value a sort of neoliberal kind of economy and support some kind of a social safety net, but still have some warped idea of capitalism in their mind. You have a lot of different people. You have your pacifists and your Greens, your environmentalists, whose primary worldview is centered around the protection of the planet in their mind, or things of that sort. You have different people on the left who approach things differently. But generally, if you look at American politics in particular, you will see American politicians and writers and scribes and thinkers on the political left using the word democracy in every way, shape, and form. And ultimately, my friends, I believe their use of the word democracy, much like the word itself and the principle it contains, directly tries to justify tyrannical measures under the guise of benevolence. What do I mean? When Elon Musk bought Twitter, Elizabeth Warren said that his purchase is dangerous to democracy. And upon that basis, immediately used that term, dangerous to democracy, to justify a wealth tax, which is, for those of you who do not know, not merely a tax on income, but a tax on every single asset a billionaire has, no matter how he got, a tax on every single asset a billionaire has, not merely his income, but his houses, yachts, boats, everything. It's taking an already immoral situation, the government coming in and confiscating your stuff, and it's putting it to the exponent of 3, or even more than that, to a very high exponent, and increasing it by saying, okay, not only is your income subject to this immoral equation, but now so is every other item of property that you own. And how is she justifying it? Not on its merits. Warren is not making an ethical argument based in utilitarianism or consequentialism, which would both be wrong, by the way, but still it would be some attempt at a broader philosophical justification. No, she's simply using the word democracy in everything that it entails in the popular consciousness and not even justifying it in any meaningful way. Once again, she's not evaluating her premises, and she's using them to do the work for her as opposed to doing the work for them, which you should be doing as a thinker, as a speaker, as someone who's trying to get to the core of things, as I would hope a sitting politician would be. Senator Sanders. This goes beyond Elon Musk, by the way. Senator Sanders, Bernie Sanders. He said that if certain provisions of the Build Back Better Act were not passed, we would be committing a threat to the very fabric of democracy. Now, some of these measures included Medicaid for all, included a wealth tax, included a lot of things, which again wade into very morally questionable territory. And Sanders wanted to simply justify all of them on the basis of democracy. I will read his exact quote. He said, "The challenge that we face in this really unusual moment in American history is whether we have the courage to stand with the American people and take on the very powerful special interest. See, they always do this. They always have this sort of class dichotomy, not unlike what Marx did, but in just different terms. Same principle, different terms, where they say, well, the elites are evil and the people are good. Populists on the right do the same thing, and it grates the hell out of me. There is no class-based existence. You may belong or have a characteristic of a certain class, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your entire being is dictated by that characteristic. Human beings contain multitudes. We are dynamos of potential and energy that can do things in this world, magnificent things. And yet, a lot of mediocre political minds want to divide it between the elites and the people, special interests and the people. Well, guess what? Every single political cause, Mr. Sanders, is a special interest. And the people, therefore, if they have political causes, have special interest. The dichotomy falls apart. The concept falls apart because it makes no sense in reality. The us versus them makes no sense in reality. Go to an elite in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, and an elite in San Francisco and see how well they get along. There is much more to people than a single condition or characteristic they might inherit by proxy of wealth or whatever. I'm sorry, I guess that gets on my nerves. But he also said, if we fail to do those things, in my view, if the American people do not believe the government can work for them and is dominated by powerful special interests, the very fabric of American democracy is in danger. The NAACP president said, in response to Elon Musk purging Twitter, the following: Mr. Musk, free speech is wonderful. Hate speech is unacceptable. Disinformation, misinformation, and hate speech have no place on Twitter. Do not allow 45 to return to the platform of Donald Trump. Do not allow Twitter to become a petri dish for hate speech or falsehoods that subvert our democracy. Here it goes. Protecting our democracy is of utmost importance, especially as the midterm elections approach. Mr. Musk, lives are at risk, and so is democracy. In that one little paragraph there, he does not justify his assertions at all. He once again does not define his terms, doesn't define what democracy is. He uses emotional platitudes, appeals to emotion, all manner of fallacy and fable contained into one paragraph, creating so much trouble. From the man at the helm of one of the most powerful, it was once one of the most powerful civil rights advocacy groups in the nation, now pushing political propaganda that has no philosophic basis to it whatsoever, to justify the suppression of one's ability to express themselves. And yes, the faculty of speech is endemic and inherent to human existence. That faculty is bigger than the First Amendment. And a part of that faculty is not simply speech that is of good taste, but it's also speech that is of bad taste. And guess what? Just because speech is of bad taste does not mean it is immoral. If speech is of bad taste but does not go towards the violation of one's individual natural rights, it is not thus immoral. But this relationship between words and morals, ethics and language is not evaluated because, again, the basis is democracy. Democracy, demos, kratos. Demos means kratos. Demos means the people. Kratos means power. I believe that is the case. And that equation, power of the people, we understand how this worked in Athens, where they had citizens' councils that basically decided everything. We understand how this relationship works. But we also understand that it's a political absurdity, because democracy assumes that the most amount of people that you have deciding something will ultimately arrive to a benevolent solution for something. Here's the problem, though. But democracy is like a tool, but the tool itself has no inherent value. It's how people use the tool. And so you're basically trusting that tool of democracy to be used in a way that is inherently good because of the tool. It's like saying a hammer is good because it's a hammer. No, a hammer is good because a hammer has capability to do certain things that goes beyond it just being a hammer. From out of a hammer can flow a building, can flow construction. But from out of democracy flows what? From out of democracy only flows the sentiment of a majority. And if the sentiment of a majority is tainted or immoral, people will overlook the immoral result and rather, you guys aren't hearing me, look at the process, the democratic process, and say this is democratic, this is democracy, therefore it's good. The real reason why democracy is being used or can be used conceptually to justify tyranny without even realizing or confronting the inherent tyrannical qualities of the thing that's being promoted is because democracy puts an emphasis on an abstract idea which never manifests in reality in any sensible way, and that is the abstract idea of the collective, which does not exist because individuals by their very nature are not part of a collective. They're not endemic to a collective. Collectives are simply outgrowths of individual desire, and even in that case, they don't operate as one mind. But democracy presumes that the collective inherently has some moral quality to it, and therefore will besmirch and attack and ignore the conditions of any one individual. This is precisely what Barack Obama said in his speech. He said that, making sure that democracy is protected, this is a paraphrase obviously, is more important than simply the private interests of social media companies, even though the social media companies own their property. Your property rights are secondary to the sentiments of a democracy, which is the same way as saying the crowd has more of a basis than you and more of a validity than you because of the crowd. In any moral system, any political system, where the individual is debased because he is one, he is solitary, he is single, he is whole, and the collective is lauded because they are dispersed and diverse, which apparently gives them some sort of inherent wisdom, which does not. In any system like that, I dare say that is not a moral system, that is not a political system, that is a conceptual confusion birthed from a misreading and misunderstanding of the nature of human beings, birthed from a misreading and misunderstanding of the individual, birthed from years of perpetual references and terms that embolden the word and don't cause the word democracy to have any kind of scrutiny, birthed from these mediocre precepts that every one of us who cares about truth, that cares about philosophy, must thoroughly reject if we want to understand the true political orientation of our republic. That's how democracy can be used to debase, assault the individual, and instill tyranny, because it inherently requires a rejection of the individual to exist in the first place. Whereas the individual is concrete and material, democracy is abstract and floating, and is thus up to the interpretation of anyone who happens to get their hands on the process, and will benefit from the collective understanding of democracy as benevolent, and he who criticizes it is he who is seen as an embolder of tyranny and not as a foe of tyranny through the majority. Because the majority can rule you and destroy you just like a strong man can. And in fact, I'd be more scared of a majority because it's a little bit harder to deal with them than it is a strong man. Think on it. My friends, if you love me, please be sure to support me. Patreon.com/officialcwatson, or please go to my PayPal, officialcwatson@gmail.com, or please go to my locals, christianwatson@locals.com. I'm tired of that. Or please be sure to like, share, subscribe this video. This message is dynamite. I'm trying to give you guys the energy, but also the truth. Don't mistake my passion. My passion is good, but also understand, listen to my words. These words are important, my friends. This is not about Christian Watson. This is about me as a vessel of ideas. I'm trying to transport these ideas that are endemic to our founding to you guys to give you guys something. Let me give you guys something. Don't look at my passion. Look at the ideas. I love you guys so much, and please stay pensive. Bye, guys.